My name is R. Crosby Lyles, and this is News from the Can. NPR has reported a Cat 5 landfall of Hurricane Dorian on the Bahama Islands with sustained winds of 185 miles per hour and gusts of up to 220 miles per hour. If you live in the projected path of this storm and are ordered to evacuate, it would be wise to do so. This is a killer storm. This means its track should be watched closely by everyone anywhere close to its projected path until the danger passes. From the National Hurricane Center, Hurricane Dorian's center of rotation is located right over the Bahamas at 26.6 north by 76.6 west, with sustained winds of 185 miles per hour and moving due west at 5 miles per hour. The following should not be considered expert opinion. Most of the Spagetti models show Dorian hooking away from direct landfall on Florida. However, 3 outliers show landfall in varying degrees from straight across the peninsula to a line drive right up the middle of the state to Tennessee. The mid-path of the National Hurricane Center forecast track has the eye of the storm staying offshore. The position of a ridge of high sea level pressure, coupled with a slight ridge of upper level pressure and the direction of upper level winds, lead us to believe that a potential for a more significant landfall on Florida is likely. Living in Florida for over 50 years, one develops a sense about how these storms move and how the environment prepares for a storm before it arrives. This is not scientific. No one should take my gut feeling as the gospel. But when domestic animals are restless and the wild animals are quietly on the move, I pay attention. The gas stations were empty by late Thursday evening as the human herd innately positioned itself for an onslaught. One look at the infrared satellite image of Dorian is all it takes to put most longtime Floridians on alert. The bottom line is, don't take your eyes off this storm. If you live near coastal waters or in a mobile home or a home that is not sturdy for one reason or another and they tell you to leave, it would be wise to do so. Candlelight and other forms of open flame are a bad idea in a hurricane because fires can be very difficult to put out in high winds. Generators should be positioned well away from your home, so don't accidentally gas yourself with carbon monoxide. Stay clear of fallen power lines because even if they appear to be dead, the circuit breaker can trip back on unexpectedly and zap you. Now would be a great time to make sure your radios and flashlights are working properly, your cell phones and devices are fully charged, and your pets and children are well accounted for. I'm making this video because we feel there is a stronger potential for direct landfall on Florida than has as yet been predicted. However, we always hope for the best possible outcome. Be safe out there. As always, I love you guys. Thanks for all of your support and well wishes. My name is R. Crosby Lyles, and this has been News from the Can. Thanks for watching. And they show it kind of sort of hooking off here. And when you look at the Spagetti models, this is from Cyclocane.com, link is in the description. This line right here, that was from the data that I've seen, that was my anticipation, this forecast track right here. The one that's the outlier. And then some of these other ones here, so now they're showing some other tracks that are more along the lines of what I've been thinking, and I'm going to explain that in a second. Not to discount the other models that show it hooking off in this direction. And the reason I lean towards a direct landfall and maybe even crossing over the peninsula of Florida is because of this ISO bar right here and this high pressure. This is sea level pressure, and you see this line here. Winds move clockwise around high pressure, 500 hectopascal region, which is important because you can see the jet stream moves along these lines. And so here's an area, a bubble of high pressure right here on this upper level high, right? That's an air bubble there. And then there's this larger region. Well, I'm looking at this line right here, and if you were just to pay attention to this, you might say, well, yeah, okay, then that should, because winds travel clockwise around these features, but it's also going to travel clockwise around this feature as well. So I can see why a model would say, okay, it's going to track right, it's going to follow this bubble right here, but this bubble is sort of disappearing. It's evaporating. It had been bigger. It had been a lot bigger earlier. And then you go to the jet stream and the upper level winds. Now this is interesting because on the flat map you can't really see it very well. There's like an arrow coming down here, which is probably like outflow from the storm. And then here's an arrow coming down here. So this is your upper level winds. That's your jet stream there, and these show the intensity of that jet stream and so forth. The storm is right down here. But if you go to the curved map, the the global view, so to speak, then you can start to see this thing here, which is an area of high pressure. Put your back to the wind, point to the left, and that shows you the, okay, so if you were to be standing here and if the wind is hitting you and you're pointing into the center of high pressure, then you're getting hit in the face by the wind. With a hurricane, you do the same thing and you're getting hit in the back. All right, so this is like a little area of, they're showing this looks like an area of high pressure right here, which is interesting compared to the GEM model. Has it veering off, but it's kind of strange because you see how the wind is here and they kind of have this off to the side. So it's almost like and then it moves off sharply. So that looks like a bit of a landfall there. There's your spaghetti models. One model has it coming right across the state. One has it moving, it's going right up to Tennessee. And then you look at the infrared and just let it play. There's stuff going on out here. So a couple of things that I was looking at up until early this morning was there was like a sort of a cyclonic kind of motion like this, and you can see, and I know it's very subjective to look at it this way, but you can see sort of like the clouds, you can see things sort of backing up like this. And these storms can be can be quite unpredictable. Good number of spaghetti models, most of the spaghetti models agree that the storm is going to hook off this way. But nobody really knows what the storm is going to do. So, but just going on my, my gut feeling and my instincts, and looking at how people are behaving around me, the other Floridians around me are behaving, and how they went and got gas and things like that. The herd has an intuitive sense about things. And I'm looking at the way these storms are forming and moving off, and the clouds are how they're backing up and moving off, and there's a just general movement, western movement. My gut feeling says that we're going to get more. We're going to get a bit of a landfall from this. And I'm not really sure how much. That Tennessee track brings it right across the state. Mar-a-Lago is in the target sites at this point. And then one of them just says this storm's just going to come trucking right along here, which is what Andrew did years ago. And then I think Andrew turned around and came back across. I don't remember exactly what it did, but I know that it just came through like straight across. Now, that's one model that says it will do that. One model out of how many? 10 or so or more models, spaghetti models. I don't even know how many models that is. It's at least 10. One model says it's going to do that, and one model says it's going to go this way. So those are outliers. And I'm not a meteorologist. I'm just telling you about my gut feeling. But if you live in the state of Florida, anywhere in the peninsula, going all the way up to Tallahassee from Mar-a-Lago, if this thing comes across Mar-a-Lago, it's going to come across like a rotary sander or across a Bentley. And it's not funny, really not, because just to reiterate, this storm right here is a badass mofo. This is not something you want to play with. That's why I'm making a video. A lot of times I probably wouldn't bother, but this storm right here is a killer. And just to reiterate, governor came out, DeSantis came out and said, if they tell you to evacuate. This should be dealt with urgency, and obviously our thoughts and prayers are with the people that are getting hammered right now in the Bahamas area and on these islands. That's bad news. They're in a bad spot right there. This storm, it's going to be a Category 4 storm. It could be, Hurricane Andrew was a Category 4 up until it hit, and then it was really a Category 5. And it looked like, I went down there just a few miles south of where we were 6 months later, and it looked like literally it had been hit by an atomic bomb. It was a line drawn across the landscape. One side of it, was torn up. You could tell that something had happened 6 months later, but, the stuff was still looked, you know, half-ass normal. And then you cross this line, you could just look down as you went over an overpass or something, you could just look down the line and just see the other side of it. Every tree had been knocked over, snapped in half. All the roofs had been blown off. It was just like a bomb had hit. So this to me is reminiscent of that. And that you can just see it. You don't really have to listen to me. You can just see. You can look right at it and say, yeah, that's a badass mofo right there. This storm is not to be taken lightly. If you live in the state of Florida, and I'm just saying, and I'm really preaching to the choir at this point. Anybody who lives in Florida and they're looking at this right here, they got the boards on the windows by now. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're doing what they got to do. We got our water and gas a while back. You know, I mean, it's the lines. The gas was out at just about every gas station, and that was days ago, Thursday. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, the herd has an intuitive sense about things. But I'm looking at the Spagetti models. I'm hearing what they're saying about hooking over, and then when I look at data like this, when I see this line right here, right, and I see this line right here, this one right here, I'm thinking, I don't know. So trust your own instincts. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. You know, it's better to be prepared. It's always better to be prepared than not. You know, if you take an umbrella, you end up not needing it, type of thing. So, belt and suspenders. It's always good to be prepared. Have your water and your extra food and a couple of things, candles and fires and things like that are not good to have in your home during a hurricane, because fires in a hurricane are hard to put out and will burn your whole frickin' house down. There was a fire during Hurricane Andrew at a marina pretty close to where I was living at that time, down on Biscayne Bay, and that thing burned down. It's like uncontrollably. Nobody could do anything about it. So just remember that, candles, and your power goes out. You don't want to run down your whatever little lanterns you have and stuff like that. But, I'll tell you, candles and fires is not necessarily a good idea. Unless you've got them, in some sort of contained type of lantern type of situation. Gas lanterns are probably not really a good idea either. And that also because I don't know what the carbon monoxide situation is with that, but you really don't want to have any kind of sort of combustion type of stuff happening, because you might have to have your windows boarded up, your windows closed up, whatever, and you're inside there and there's not a lot of air exchange. So just, be careful out there, folks. Watch how you have your generators situated. You got to want to have them away from the house so you don't gas yourself. Airflow can be an issue, and so just got to think about what you're doing. That's all. But you never know. The other models say it's just gonna hook right around. But my gut feeling says no. We're gonna get a good little taste of this thing. We're gonna get some kind of landfall out of that. That's just an opinion. It's just me. But that's my gut feeling says we're gonna get a taste of this. So y'all want to be prepared. I love you guys. Be careful out there. And that's it. We might have another update soon. See you.